report. WACOG last night, we had a pretty lively discussion about senior centers. Weber Human Services came and presented. It was the only agenda item, and they've pretty well got things worked out. They're going to go down to 5 senior centers for this coming year, giving each of them $59,000 or $59,000 worth of benefits. I found out they're still employing the employee for the terrace. The terrace is cutting down to 29 hours a week, and they are not very happy about the situation and where it's headed. Roy doesn't seem to really care too much one way or the other. They just want an answer for Weber Human Services. During the presentation, they said that the cities had given them a proposal for the 26 fiscal year, but then they said one of the cities was still in meetings or something, and they kind of looked at me. Did we get that finished up and sent in to them, or we haven't quite sent it in yet?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
We're working on it.
Okay.
They forgot to ask for a proposal from us until last week. And so we're a little bit behind, but we'll work on it.
And they're not going to make that decision until October. Yeah, so it would be really interesting to see where our residents come down on the whole senior center issue, I think. But
Only can just give us money.
yeah, and that's what they want to do. Weber Human Services wants out of it. They just want to give money. But their big decision is whether to go to 3 or 4 centers or maybe 5.
That was a water joke.
Well, there
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
some
in lieu of.
we have a few concerns. Rich and I have met on this. They want to turn this over to the city, but they still want to keep a lot of control on things and tell us certain things that we can and can't do. And so we've still got to iron some of this stuff out too.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to agree to some conditions that just aren't going to work just because it's something that they want, kind of thing. If we're going to be hiring these employees, they're going to be our employees, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
we've got to iron some of that stuff out. But at least for this next coming year, we're okay. We'll give it a trial run and see how it goes, and then
Yeah.
evaluate it at the end of that.
Well, the interesting thing is they're going to make the decision in October about what they're doing the next year. But
Yeah.
we're still in our trial year. We don't even know if we want to be in it in the
Yeah.
next year. So it's just an interesting situation. But we're good for this year.
And I think we have a lot more to negotiate and talk with because we're the only city that has not been a prior partner.
Yeah.
So in other words, in the terrace, they're employing the person, they're dictating everything.
Same with Roy.
Same with Roy, and like with us, they're coming in, wanting to treat us the same way. We've been operating independently,
Yeah.
so there's just a lot more to work on. But
Yeah.
it's definitely something we're trying to do.
Yeah. So just so you're aware, Councilor Haas.
So I imagine part of that has to do with the difference in fiscal years, right? The county's fiscal year is January to January.
Is
as
it different?
opposed-
Okay.
Yeah.
Weber Human Services doesn't seem to be different
They're not,
from what I've kind of gathered.
yeah, they're not officially with the county. There's some kind
Are
of
they?
designation. I don't know what their fiscal year is, but they're not officially Weber County. They're
Then-
the commissioners are on their board, but they're some kind of other.
Okay.
It feels like they're trying to make the decision for mid-year like we are on the same schedule. To me, it feels like it.
Yeah, because the county does their budget in November
Okay.
as opposed to in May. So
Okay.
And that might be why they're trying to make
yeah.
a decision.
So they always do their tax increase when nobody's watching. And
That's great to know. That's why they all say they were already approved, huh?
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Hawes. I was curious about that.
Yeah, it always. Yeah, it was never seemed fair when I was on the council before. It always, our truth in taxation meetings always came up just before elections,
Yeah.
and
There's a
they never had to do anything. I mean, their budget comes up as elections are happening, but it doesn't seem to have the same effect.
Interesting. I don't have anything else for presentations, reports, city council assignment reports. Anything to report from your various assignments? No. Councilor Hanson, nothing from you?
Nope.
Okay.
I think I'm just working with the veterans, right? If the committee reaches out.
Yes, the veterans, and then who's over the youth city council?
I don't know if that ever got reassigned because it was Karina.
Okay. Councilor Richter, do you have an assignment?
I can take that.
Okay. Well, we will make we'll make that assignment then, if that's okay. Is the council okay with that assignment? Consensus? Okay. All right. Number 3, there's nothing to report on the senior board council assignment. Number 4, Old Glory Days attendance presentation. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. I'll just take a few minutes, if I may, and show you some information that I think is interesting in a broad sense, and especially interesting when it comes to Old Glory Days. And Rich is here, and he can chime in as well. After we talk about this, I'll send you the link to this report so you can look at it more in depth. I'll just take a few minutes to cover what I think might be a couple of important slides, maybe. Do you mind advancing for me?
Oh, this is going to be your cool software, isn't it?
Right. So let me explain this before we get into the numbers. So previously this year, we looked at some software that allows us to monitor and analyze visitation to our city. And the way that that's done is through unique MAC addresses and other types of things inside of your device. So location services is certainly one way that this looks at, but it's also things that are embedded in individual apps. And so it scrubs all of the relative information to the user and just provides just an address of a device, essentially. We don't see any of that. All we see is numbers. The company and their proprietary algorithms and things has all the data. And so what that allows us to do is go through a graphical user interface and manipulate the areas in which we want to look at, essentially geofencing those areas, and then we can look at the traffic that is associated with those areas. So for Old Glory Days, we looked at the date between July 1st and July 4th, and we just geofenced essentially the park area, not including Parker Drive or 4400, just the inside area of the park, to see what type of visitation was happening during Old Glory Days as opposed to maybe a general Monday or Tuesday. Next slide, please. So that's the map, essentially. And so I know that's hard to see. If you don't mind zooming in on that, if you can, on the top part. The chart doesn't really matter. This is an extrapolation, and so now we're talking your language, Councillor Shah, or Haas. The actual specific visitation numbers that they use to extrapolate the total visitation is 750. So that is the number of individual devices that were looked at. But the extrapolation gives us about a 12,000 person visitation count over those 3 days. And they claim a 98% accuracy on their algorithm. And so as we look at that, in a couple of slides down, we'll see normal visitation versus visitation, especially on the Thursday of July 4th, to be about 10,000 more people than what normally goes to the park on any given day. Yeah, you can just go through that. There's a bunch of information here about demographics and things. We won't get into that. If you wouldn't mind going down to... Keep going, please. A couple more. And again, I'll send this to you. This is a map because it's following the movement of the device. It knows where people come from, and it knows where people go, and it knows how long that device is in an area during any given time. And so we can heat map that kind of movement to see where the attendees of the event are coming from. And if you go to the next slide, it will look at kind of what that behavior is before and after. And so we know that about 16% of visitors that came to the event are also going to Maverick afterwards. And so we can look at this, and this helps us to understand dwell time. So how long is an individual staying during an event? In this case, it's an average of 58 minutes. Where they come from? Are they coming from work? Are they coming from home? What routes are they taking? How long are they staying, like I said? And then where might they be going afterwards as it relates to the event? The part of the reason why this software was purchased specifically is to help our retailers understand some of the traffic patterns of their customers. For instance, we just did a report like this for Hobby Lobby, because Hobby Lobby and Walmart have a unique relationship between their parking lots that if they were connected in a certain way would potentially violate one or the other's lease. And so in working that out to try to remove that dead island in between and the fence, we looked at traffic patterns between Walmart and Hobby Lobby to determine how many customers Hobby Lobby might be benefiting from that are going to Walmart first, and then vice versa. And so that was helpful for them to understand that it might be in their best interest to actually break open that parking lot section and allow more traffic to free flow. But that's a side note. We will continue to track, as long as we have this software, we'll continue to look at these numbers year over year to see what that attendance looks like. I think in terms of potentially using this data to get more sponsorships and donations, we can take this information to a company that might otherwise not want to participate because it's on a holiday, there might be overtime, there might be other costs associated with their participation. We can show them that there is an audience here, that, and during what times of the day, during what day, what types of people are coming in terms of their background and income and those kind of things. And hopefully that will help Rich and the city look at additional participation by our local businesses. So I'll send this report to you all. Look at it at your leisure, and then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Any questions for Mr. Cooper? Councilor Arnold, I think, was first. Okay, Councilor Richter.
I just curious. I mean, do we know how it compares to prior years? Do we? And
That first page, if you don't mind going back. The year, I think they have a year over year, a year over two, and a year over three. I think the year over three number is probably
Sunday or something, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's an outlier there. I don't think that's a correct calculation, but it's reasonable to think that that's a 14.5% increase year over year. That would be reasonable.
thank you. I missed that the first time.
That's interesting. They can go back on the data. That's really interesting. Councilor Arnold.
If we're gonna do this, I'd like to see the parade. If we can geofence the parade versus the park, because I don't think the numbers that we get at the parade and at the fireworks don't go through the day. I mean, it's not even close through the day, but the parade is. I try to calculate because I give out 2,000 bottles of water, and I think there is no way that I give 1 in 10. For every 10 people, they get 1 bottle of water. That's 20,000 people. So
You could probably do it, right? You could do the
We're
parade.
working on it because of the nature of the route. It covers both the road and a lot of the property frontages. So we're trying to dial in that location so we're not grabbing erroneous data.
I mean, even if people are just there with the frontage and people aren't part of the parade, but they're just sitting there, it's going to be minuscule compared to the number of people that are attending the parade. I would think, just with our population.
Yeah, so we're
Interesting
working
to
on
find
it.
out because,
Yep.
like, where they go, I think that'd be amazing to see where they're at the parade, where they come from. Because there's no way. I mean, if we have say 20,000, just throw a number out there. We don't have 20,000 people in our city, so every member or every resident from Riverdale times 3 is, where do they go after that?
Anecdotally, Rich told me that you can visibly watch people go from the parade up to the park, and so we know a bulk of the people that attended the parade are attending the
That's the people in the parade.
spectators.
That mic on.
When I met with Brandon and he reviewed this with me, there was another graph or piece of information that talked about how long people stayed within that area.
That's in there.
Okay, and he mentioned the average stay was 58 minutes, but there was quite a large portion of people who, and I think the copy that you left with me, it was down towards the end, Michelle.
It's in one of those blue bar charts.
I don't know.
Michelle.
I don't know if it's there, but the data that he left with me
Keep going.
showed that there's quite unexpectedly a large portion of people that only stayed in the park for 15 to 30 minutes, right? And that just didn't make sense to me. But as I was thinking about things more, a possible explanation could be that they parked along Parker Drive. They walked through the park to get to the parade. And walking through the park might take 15 minutes. So then this data captures them. So there are some limitations to the data because we don't know out of these 10,000 people what they were there for specific to an event like the car show, the race, the parade, the fireworks, and we did talk about trying to geofence the parade area because I think that could be really interesting data as well. But I do believe that some of this data that captured those 15 to 30 minute visits, I mean, I don't know what kind of explanation that would be other than maybe walking through the park to get to the parade or...
Well, if you'd see how many people are at the school and at the church in the parade route, I mean, it's pretty... There's quite a few people along the route, but you get to I literally throw cases of water out into the people at the... It's nuts when you get there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that information about the sponsorships and the corporate involvement, if people could understand how big that parade is, and if we had some data about those individuals that attend the parade, just as you're trying to use this for retailers to help understand, I think it could help them maybe want to be involved in what we have going on. Because I definitely think the parade is I've never been to it, but by all accounts, I think it's the biggest.
How long you worked here? You just had your 10th anniversary.
You guys have me working doing other things during the parade, so
He's here. Yeah.
I'm here on the 4th of July more than anybody. I'm comfortable
starts at
saying that.
6.
Aren't you sitting in the building?
Starts
You're
at
on the
5.
clock.
No, so what happens after the parade is not everybody, but a lot of people come and they want the live music and they want the vendors and all that stuff. Well, those vendors, you can't let them set themselves up. That'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to handle that, and then also finishing up the race and the car show this year was
You
a
don't
whole
need to be
nother
defensive.
So
That's it.
anyway,
Okay.
I'm just going off of what people tell me. I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you guys would know the parade better than me. So
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What other?
Sure, let's put you in the parade. He could be the grand marshal.
Idea.
Do we need a grand marshal?
Good idea.
He selects them.
Just one quick other use case in terms of our retail recruitment and retention. We're looking at some analysis around void analysis and leakage so that we can look at what co-tenancy looks like in terms of who plays nicely with others when it comes to retailers and who likes to be next to whom, and then what retailers are people leaving our community for to go to, so we can track that data as well. And so that'll help us to build a portfolio and have a clearer picture of who's here, what those traffic patterns are amongst the connected retailers, and where the gaps might be, so that we can go out and contact those folks and say, hey, come to Riverdale because you historically do well next to a Target. We have a Target that has 4 million visits a year, and we have an empty space that's 20,000 square feet. Come on in. So that's hopefully what we can get to, but we'll certainly track the parade as well.
Okay, can I just add?
Yeah.
For my clarification, okay, the geofence is tracking essentially a cell phone or a communication device.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a lot of families with the children. So does it surmise families, like if you have mom and dad with 3 kids or 4 kids, and so there's 2 phones, so does it extrapolate that out? Because when you use the number 10,000 or whatever, I mean, that's a pretty specific area for family type of events when you're tracking the phones. I don't know how it.
Let me
how
tell you
it,
my limited knowledge, and then we have a statistics expert here that can probably shed some light on it.
Anyway, okay, that's in the weeds. I'm sorry.
But it does track individual devices, and so if you're a family with 3 individual devices, then each person's getting tracked. But because not every device is trackable based on individual settings and those kind of things, then there is an algorithm that takes the units that were defined as fixed individuals, tangible, and then that 10,000 number is created.
Yeah, and that's their proprietary algorithms that, and I'm sure that's one of the things that they do is look at the type of event to extrapolate to how many kids might have been attached to each device on average.
Like how fast they're moving from booth to booth, or if they're just sitting in a chair.
Well, they only have the geofence, but which booths they went to would be a good thing.
As Rich said, it's not perfect, but it is data that I think gives us a lot more visibility than we had before. And it's something that we can use at least to inform some of our decisions.
Yeah.
I just want to say I hate this stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It's cool.
Scares the bejesus out of me.
Big Brother, it's best. We squirmed about this one, but we thought the overall data information was worth it. So.
Placer is industry best practice, so they are well known, well respected. Their algorithms have been tested, and so they are top shelf in terms of the companies that provide this information for results and safety and security.
And if I've got this information right, I think Mr. Cooper did reach out to like the Katrubases and said, "Hey, look, this is where people go when they leave Walmart and Hobby Lobby. It would benefit you, right?" You reached out right to the Katrubas family and said, having that fence gone would be a benefit to you, and I can prove it to you by this, information. So he's already putting it to good use. But I think I had the direct quote of what you just said. I think I said to Mr. Brooks, like, this is crazy cool, but I hate it. So, yeah. Anyway, very good. Thank you, and we'll be looking forward to new ways to use that and new information reports. So anytime you want to be on the agenda with some cool information, just let us know. Cool.
This potentially could be used for our sales tax. My mind is going on this,
Yeah.
saying, hey, there's a boatload of scenarios we can use this, apply this to.
Yeah, traffic numbers, public safety. I mean, it can be really valuable. So we felt it's worthwhile to take a look at it, and we'll play with it and get better at it and see what we come up with.
All right. We'll now move on to consent items. We just have one consent item. It's consideration to approve the meeting minutes from the June 18th council work session and council meeting, and the July 16th council work session and council meeting. Any changes or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Councilor Arnold is abstaining, so that is 4 yeses and 1 abstaining. That passes. Okay, we will move on to action items. Out of respect for one of our petitioners' time, we're going to change our agenda and move number 5 up to number 1. So we will now do the consideration to approve the new local consent application for Ichiban Sushi liquor license. Ms. Maragoni.
So Ichiban moved into the space that was previously occupied by Boathouse Restaurant and closed recently.
Do you have a microphone on?
I thought I did.
There we go.
You'd think I would know. You guys are with Ichiban, right? Yes. Okay. So Boathouse had a liquor license, but they've closed. These guys moved in and they want to have the same type of bar as they had before, so that their new license will just replace the one that was there before. They turned in their application, had everything, went through the background checks. No issues.
I do have one question. Do we have a limited number of liquor licenses in Riverdale?
We don't. Our code kind of says that you can, as the council, consider how many there are,
Okay.
but I haven't seen anything with a limit.
It's limited by schools and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Location.
Yeah, and
locale,
this location doesn't have any proximity issues.
Okay. Just curious. I think another city does have some issues with that, and I was just curious. I hadn't ever heard that in Riverdale.
Yeah, so there's a state limit.
Oh, like a cap on the total number, right?
Yeah, but they raised it quite a bit this last legislation. So
Okay. That was just a question. All right. Any questions or comments from the council? Council Arnold.
Move to approve the new local consent application for Ichiban Sushi liquor license.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Yes.
Councilor Arnold,
Abstain. No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
Councilor Hanson,
Yes.
Councilor Richter,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Very good.
Got it. Just a question about the restaurant. What's your pricing like?
Can you come up to the
Just-
microphone just
just-
to answer a question? Shoot.
And you can both come up.
I'm so nervous. So how to open that?
It's good.
It's
on.
on.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What
So
question?
your pricing, because we usually go to, I can't remember the name of the restaurant in Layton, but usually we only go on Tuesdays because it's half price Tuesdays. What's your pricing like on certain days, or is it the same all the time, or?
Oh, we do the same whole day. It's the same time, and there's all sushi is 50% off.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you for being here tonight. We will now move on to action item number 1. Consideration of Resolution 2024-26, declaring property held by the city as lost, unclaimed, surplus, or otherwise no longer viable to the city use or purposes, and declaring claimed property as public interest use, and authorizing the use or sale of the same. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
It's not rude to leave
You can
our
leave.
meeting.
Yeah.
Your portion's done. If you would like to leave, it's not rude
Yeah.
to leave. So,
Either way. Okay.
As I mentioned in a pre-planning meeting, we do these on occasion, primarily just when we get a lot of stuff accumulated and just to clear out space, and we've reached that point. We haven't had one for a little bit, so this is just accumulation of all kinds of things throughout the city. A lot of bikes, as was mentioned in a pre-planning meeting. Again, that's not unusual. We get a lot of these from all kinds of stuff, but we just need to get you to declare it a surplus, and at this point we'll handle it through an auction or the other means to probably dispose of those things as we've always traditionally done.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Brooks? Councilor Richter.
Typically, you have a time period here where the public could go and view
Yep.
that product, and
Yep.
that's just published after.
Yeah, and he does it, and he'll start off at a price, and then a Dutch auction, I think he calls it, and it goes down. And then at the end, just depending on what we have left over, we'll donate it to, organizations or the DI or something like that. The stuff that doesn't sell. Most of it gets picked over pretty good by the end.
Okay. Councilor Arnold.
move to approve Resolution 2024-26 as stated within the packet.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes. Second.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Councilor Hanson,
Yes.
Councilor Richter,
Yes.
Councilor Stevens,
Yes.
Councilor Hawes,
Yes.
Councilor Arnold.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, consideration of Resolution 2024-27, amending the 2024-2025 consolidated fee schedule. Rich Taylor.
Good evening, council. Before you is a request to amend the fee schedule in my department. From time to time, we get phone calls about use of the park and reserving the amphitheater, not the pavilions, but the amphitheater of the park. And we don't have any structure set up to capture a fee or to reserve it in any form or fashion. And like I said, from time to time we get these requests. We were talking about it as a staff and decided to bring forward to you guys an amended fee schedule that would include pricing to reserve the amphitheater over at Riverdale Park. With that, there's some considerations of staff that we've been talking about. It would be handled much like the reservations of the pavilions. We would do the similar time schedules and things like that. The amphitheater is a little different, and we're working on trying to figure out a way to communicate that if we take reservations, because there's no tables, there's no garbages, there's no grails and really amenities, right? It's you guys have seen it. It's just concrete. But there's some people that like that and want to use it for things, and without being able to reserve it, it's hard to plan on it, So this would give that option to people. You can see the fee schedule. We have two different prices for pavilions, large and small pavilions. Size-wise, with the amphitheater, it's probably closer to a small pavilion size-wise, but use-wise, I don't know if it would attract events similar to a large or whatnot. So if you guys want to even change the suggested fees here, that's great. Or if you guys don't want to approve it, that's great too. We're just wanting to bring this up as a discussion and really see what the council wants to do with it. So,
Is there power up there all the time, or do you have to turn it on?
so there is power. There was a period of time a couple years ago we were getting some issues there where we did turn off the power, but the power is on more or less right now, so we can control it, but we typically leave the power on there. I failed to mention some other considerations would be events with amplified sound and things that might disrupt the neighborhood. We still have park rules that prohibit the amplified sound, and really any use outside the park rules or outside our normal scope and our normal policy would be subject to a special event permit. Really, right now, that would be the only way to get permission to put your name on that facility right now. This would allow us to do reservations on the amphitheater, but not every reservation. If it rises to the level of amplified sound or structures or whatever they want in the park, they would have to go through that process, and that wouldn't change.
That was the only question I had. Oh, Annie.
Councilor Hanson.
Would we be able to give an exemption to the Riverdale City Band so they can reserve it for free?
So we would handle the Riverdale City Band much like we handle our internal programs. We don't charge ourselves fees to use the pavilions and things like that. So they're affiliated with us, and so we would do it that way.
Good question.
Okay.
Councilor Stevens.
Through the years, I use that exercise room several times a week, and I angle myself so I'm looking out at the park and the pavilion and the amphitheater. And all this time, I've never seen it. Well, that one time when I think BLM did a kind of used it for whatever kind of is. But all this time, the only thing I've ever seen is quinceanera practicing their dances up there, and I see that a couple, 3 times a year. Mostly kids, and I recognize the quinceanera motif of the dances and the practicing, and that's informal, but I've never seen it used. Never. Other than Gold Glory days.
Well, not having a fee and not being able to reserve it probably discourages some of people's desire to use it, because it's hard to plan something if you don't know if you have it. And I don't know if that's by design or not. I haven't addressed it in the time that I've worked here, but obviously there wasn't a fee set up before I got here, and I don't know all those discussions. I do know also the use of the amphitheater might attract some amplified sound and things like that. I don't know if that was an issue, but this might encourage more use. I don't know.
And it will still be free. If someone wants to just go use it, they can. This just gives us a little structure if someone wants to reserve it for and know that they have it. It's still like all the pavilions are kind of first come, first served. They're free.
Unless reserved. Yeah.
Unless reserved.
Yep.
Yes. And it was $30 for residents?
That's what's listed here in the packet. Like I said, there was some discussion to have the price be matching the large pavilion price, which would be $60 for residents or $180 for non-residents. Really, it's up to the council and your guys' discretion. We kind of talked as a staff and had a lot of different thoughts and didn't really know exactly where to settle. So
Yeah. I mean, it really does have a special kind of unique nature to it. I mean, the event, maybe
one
two or
thing-
$300 is more.
The one thing is that there's no amenities.
right.
I'm just kidding on that price.
It's just, I mean, we want to put tables and stuff in there. But I don't think we do. I don't think we want food and
No,
Too
there's no
much.
garbage cans.
Yeah, Sean's not here tonight, but he did have concerns about food and about attracting certain types of use. And so I know Sean was pretty not interested in putting additional amenities in there.
is there a water?
There is no water access at the amphitheater. There is water access at the park on the.
I was just
North
thinking
Pavilion.
to hose it down or
Yeah, I think the nearest water that we would have access to as a city to clean up with would be the splash pad, that building there.
It's almost, to me, the fee is a little too high I mean,
The if you look up above at the
I'm looking at.
well, it's actually not even listed. Oh, it's listed right underneath it. It's a 6-hour block from 9 to 3 or 4 to 10. So the $30 is for 6 hours. It's not
is that what
for,
the pavilion or the pavilions are? 6-hour blocks.
Yeah.
Same structure.
it's the same structure as the pavilions. This recommendation, yeah.
It wasn't even the fee as much that we were concerned about as maybe just getting some rules in place and some organization. If I have two groups show up there at the same time, in case these guys have to go up there and decide who they're going to give it to, well, it's easy if somebody's got it reserved and somebody doesn't. If I have two of them that don't, then it causes a mess. So that was the idea behind it. We didn't get hung up on the price. If you guys wanted to go something lesser, I don't know that we'd really care. So
I mean, so we can revisit this after with some data usage.
Yeah, what this would do is allow us to get it on the books and start figuring things out. But, I mean, yeah, whatever direction you guys want to go.
Councilor Arnold.
Move to approve resolution 2024-26 as stated within the packet.
27.
Oh, wait a minute. It'd be 27?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I'm spun up too fast.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please pull the council?
Councilor Richter?
Yes.
Councilor Hanson?
Yes.
Councilor Arnold?
Yes.
Councilor Hawes?
Yes.
Councilor Stevens?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 3, consideration of resolution 2024-28, approving a contract with Qualtrics for survey services. Mr. Brooks.
thank you. Again, as I explained in a pre-planning meeting, this is just Qualtrics is kind of the national guru, I guess you could say, in survey services. They work extensively with cities for exactly what we're looking for. We did reach out to some of our neighboring cities and ask them what their thoughts were. Both the Terrace and South Ogden were really very positive in their experience with the Qualtrics. So we thought maybe we'd give this a try and do a little experimental run and see how valuable it ends up being for us. I mean, we don't know, until we get that full training, but some of the ideas that we were talking about, not just public surveys, but even internal ones with employees and different things, we want to try it as much as we can while it's available and take full advantage of it. So we'll see how it goes and decide after that.
One of the things about using Qualtrics is they're going to help us really write good questions that get the information that we want and not just us kind of asking off the cuff. That they will help us create surveys. They have templates that other cities use. They said, we're happy to help you do like a yearly full city survey, or if you just have a certain item that you want to get some feedback on. They said we can put QR codes in the parks if we just want people responding about the park. Hey, what are the issues with the park? So a lot of really beneficial things. I think it would be great for the city.
And this is not we can terminate the contract anytime.
Yeah, the contract themselves that they have in here is actually for a 3-year contract. They did say they'd go a 1 year or shorter ones, but the one that they had drafted up initially included the 3 years at $10,000 each year, but that $3,400 just the first year. So it'd be a little bit higher the first year, but then the flat 10,000 the next 2 years.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Brooks? Councillor Hawes?
I don't know if you remember clear back in the olden days, but we did a citizen survey, a city survey, when I was on the council last time, and I want to say that we budgeted like $5,000. I can't remember. I
remember, Stacy.
I remember it was
expensive.
It was a significant chunk, and I believe that it was mailed out
Yeah.
to everybody.
Pony Express, I think, back then.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It was mailed with the water bills, and it was very expensive.
Yeah, it was.
We were
it was a
hand
pretty-
counted. It was very time consuming and labor intensive.
Yeah, and so 20 years later to be double, that's definitely not outrageous.
Yeah,
for price.
especially for what multiple
Price-wise,
surveys.
yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Arnold.
Move to approve resolution 2024-28 as stated within the packet.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Councillor Arnold,
Yes.
Councillor Richter,
Yes.
Councillor Haas,
Yes.
Councillor Stevens,
Yes.
Councillor Hanson.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, consideration of ordinance 985, amending Riverdale City Code, Title 9, Chapter 1, Section 1, Building Codes, adopted. Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, there's a number of codes that the city uses for our building departments. Fire has one. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't know, 7 or 8 probably. They come out at different times. They usually spread those out 2 to 4 years. And this is just an update. We haven't adopted the most recent ones for a while, so Mr. Woody had come and asked me to throw a couple of those on there, and so at that time we just decided to consolidate all of them and just say we're going to start adopting them, and as the state adopts them, we're automatically going to adopt them as well unless we opt out. So we still have that option to do that, but I think this is a good way to just keep us up, and we don't have to keep coming in and bugging you guys. You wouldn't even know what was in those, most likely. None of us would except for Jeff and our fire inspector most likely. So it's just we need to stay current on these things for the most part, and that's what we're doing. Just bring us updated to where we should be.
Any questions for Mr. Brooks? Councillor Arnold.
I know Bart had some, and I disagreed with him at that time, that, having these automatic updates that don't come through the council, we kind of lose sight of things. If we could just do like informational updates, even though, the state comes through and says, because we most likely have to change.
Yeah.
If the state says we have to, but if we can get an update just so that we know what
We can
what
do
we're
that.
talking about.
Some of these are 3 or 4 inches thick, those code books, so I'm pretty sure you don't read all those, but I don't know that I've ever read one of them. We'll read bits and pieces, but yeah, we can do that as they come through, as they're
When we
updated.
make the change, I think that would be very
Yeah,
beneficial.
just as anything, because I think even as it's stated within the packet with changing dates to
Occasional
current
updates and stuff,
is
okay.
great,
Okay.
but it's just, because we do get asked a lot of questions about things when they arise, and, when you're on the council and you say, I don't know, it gets a little rough sometimes.
Yeah, usually when it's one of those weird ones, Jeff's going to know about it before any of us, and so he'd be giving us a heads up if there's one we wanted to opt out of. They're not very. Snow load was another one a few years ago. I remember we opted out of. I don't know if Riverdale did, but I know a lot of cities did because they had changed that. Sometimes they write these things back in Washington, D.C., and it's not all that applicable, say, in Utah. And so occasionally we don't want to go by everything. But, yeah, we can do that too, Alan. That's not a problem.
I mean, even if it's in a new category on the agenda, just saying information only or something
Yeah.
like that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, just make that part of your motion, and we'll incorporate it.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. Brooks? Seeing none, Councillor Arnold.
Move to approve ordinance 985, amending Riverdale City Code, Title 9, Chapter 1, Section 1, Building Codes adopted, with the addition of the possibility of putting in a information section of agenda to keep the council informed of changes that might come through this process.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
Counselor Richter?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Hanson?
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 6, consideration to adjourn into a closed session pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-205-DE to discuss the sale or purchase of real property. Mr. Brooks, anything?
We've got one item that's specific to city council that we want to discuss with you on a purchase of some property. And so we need to go into a closed session on that to protect the particulars on that deal there.
Okay, Councilor Arnold.
Motion to go into a closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
Counselor Hanson?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Richter?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Okay, we are going into closed session. Thank you.
Casey, you want to get that door for us? Thanks.
Rich, are you leaving?
I can stick around. What do you want, Mayor?
I'll talk to you tomorrow. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll text you.
Sleep well.
I'm on your time, buddy.
No.